People felt they knew why Pauley Perrette stopped acting. The official story was easy to understand. She desired a life with less noise. The released records, on the other hand, portray a different narrative. There were claims of violence, safety issues, and a co-star she was so scared of that she needed treatment to deal with it. CBS assumed their deal would put an end to everything. They were wrong. Pauley is finally ready to tell the truth about what really happened on set in those last years, now that he is 56. Pauley Perrette was born in New Orleans on March 27, 1969, yet her childhood was everything but stable. Her dad worked for the train, so the family was often relocating from one state to another. She had already lived in 14 different locales by the time she was an adolescent. She never remained long enough to feel like she was at home. But moving around so often taught her how to adapt quickly, fit in, and read people swiftly. She was born in Louisiana, but she always believed Alabama felt like home. She learned to be quite flexible because she lived in so many different places in the South. Anything that would later help her get through the uncertain world of Hollywood. Pauley wanted to fight crime even before anyone knew her as Abby Suto. When she was a kid, she didn't only read fairy tales and watch cartoons. She liked reading about real-life criminals and the technology used to catch them. Most youngsters wanted to be astronauts or athletes, but she wanted to join a rock band, work with animals, or even become an FBI agent. She really meant it. She went to college after high school and got degrees in sociology, psychology, and criminology. She didn't stop there. She came to New York and started working on her master's degree at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Fame and success weren't what drove her. She only wanted to know why people injure others without feeling bad about it. That question stuck with her for years. Something happened that changed her life forever while she was in school and trying to make ends meet. She was severely robbed while she was in Atlanta in the 1980s. There aren't many details, but the effect was strong. It wasn't only a scary time. It became a point of no return. Instead of shoving the trauma away, she used it as fuel. It made her want to start learning about crime and assisting others even more. She began to speak out for victims from then on. She spoke out for individuals who had been hurt and utilized her expanding platform to do so. She always remembered what it was like to be one of them. Her time in college was anything but normal. Pauley worked hard in school, but she worked even harder outside of school to stay alive. She went to school in Georgia to study criminal justice. And kept her grades up. Things grew harder when she relocated to New York. She worked as a bartender at subterranean clubs while wearing a mohawk and combat boots, which made her fit right in with the city's strange nightlife. She also gave out brochures on roller skates and even cooked on dinner cruise vessels to make money for school. It wasn't glamorous, but she subsequently stated it all helped her. She wasn't just reading about how people act in books, she was living it every day. She didn't intend it that way, but that mix of schoolwork and real-life experience turned out to be the best training for acting. She received her first tattoo when she was only 15. That was stunning to her because she grew up in a very conservative Southern society. She grew up in a strict religion where movies and TV weren't allowed too often. When she was a kid, she looked like the quintessential Southern girl. She had blonde hair and pigtails, and she was pleasant and well-behaved. But on the inside, she felt different. The tattoos were a method for her to show the world that she wasn't going to follow the rules that other people had created for her. She had about 20 tattoos over the years, and each one showed a different part of who she was. She painted her body in a way that went against everything she had been taught. She only had $71 when she finally got to Hollywood in the 1990s. She had just come from New York, where she had been working as a bartender at clubs and doing anything else she could to get by. Things didn't get any better in Los Angeles. She slept on friends' floors and accepted any work she could find. To pay her rent, she even did voiceover work for a service that let anyone call in and listen to songs. She hadn't always wanted to be an actor. She found it by accident while struggling to stay alive. And she only did it because her first intention to work in criminology didn't pay the bills. She walked dogs along Sunset Boulevard for only $5 a day when she was at her lowest point. It didn't seem like much, yet it turned into something great. She saved one of those dogs off the street, a pit bull, and it became her beloved Cece. That dog was more than simply a pet. It was a part of her story. Years later, when she got into a fight with a co-star over his vicious dog, the fact that it was connected to Cece made it even more important. She started to adore animals on those outings, and that affection has stayed with her. Since then, she has helped many groups that save animals. She got her first break in TV not by auditioning or getting an agency, but by overhearing someone talk in a coffee shop. She was sitting close by when she heard about a casting call for the Drew Carey Show. That one moment got her the part of an extra named Darcy, which she portrayed in 4 episodes over the course of 2 years. From there, she progressively started adding to her resume. She had bits on series like Murder One and Frasier. And each one got her a little closer to her big break. That conversation you heard was the turning point. In the movie Almost Famous, which came out in 2000, she had a brief role as a radio DJ named Alice Wisdom. She didn't have a big part, but it was an opportunity to work with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Cameron Crowe, among others. She had been in a short drama called The Price of Kissing a few years before. These roles weren't huge hits, but they helped her become a better actress. Almost Famous didn't do well at the box office, but nevertheless became a cult classic. Before NCIS made her famous, she was in a lot of movies that showed she could do a lot of different things. Pauley Perrette stepped into the audition room in 2003 wearing baggy Levi's, sneakers, and a simple white shirt. She was a natural blonde, which was very different from the gothic character she would eventually become famous for. But as soon as she walked in, Don Bellisario is alleged to have said, "That's her." Later, her buddy Kevin Lawson said that Perrette didn't even have to try hard. Her pleasant, fast-talking, caffeinated enthusiasm and love of embraces were enough. She didn't perform the character of Avashuto. It was a part of who she was. She didn't have to act out her caffeine energy, fast-talking warmth, or love of embraces. Pauley was just being Pauley. That moment changed everything. Abby didn't just join the group. She was the team's heart. There isn't any official CBS statistics that compares her popularity to that of other characters, but fans made it plain. People who watched loved Abby. She became a popular favorite. And her part quickly became bigger than expected. Writers saw the link and began giving her more screen time. She has been in every episode of the show since it started, and she left in 2018. No one else in the cast had that kind of run. A little stuffed animal caused more trouble on production than any actor ever could. The hippo who farted was Bert. A purple stuffed animal that made fart noises when you squeezed it. What began as a backdrop item became a legend on the set. The cast and crew pushed to keep it. To keep anyone from taking it home, the makers had to lock it up. Bert was in episode after episode, bringing humor to the worst parts. It wasn't the things she sold that made Abby famous. Things like these that were a little strange stuck with me. Perrette really cared about Abby's job as a forensic scientist behind the scenes. When the 3rd episode, Sea Dog, came out in October 2003, it was evident that Abby was smart. But that wasn't a mistake. Perrette collaborated with genuine forensic scientists and learned the science on her own. She learned about DNA analysis, ballistics, and lab protocol to make the part seem authentic. She didn't merely learn the lyrics by heart. She got what they were saying. That made Abby more than just a character on TV. She felt like she could go to a genuine NCIS lab and start working right away. Pauley Perrette's heart wasn't simply in the part. She put all of her energy into issues that were important to her. One of those things was aiding veterans. She worked with the Pups for Patriots program run by American Humane, which gives service dogs to veterans who have PTSD and brain traumas that are really bad. Training these canines might cost as much as $30,000 each. But Perrette believed in the mission and did what she could to help. The organization has matched more than 160 veterans with trained dogs, offering them not just help but also respect. It was just like Abby's deep admiration for the service members on the show. The season 7 finale made the show very popular. More than 20 million people in the US watched that one program. It was a big deal for NCIS. That year, the criminal drama even had higher ratings than American Idol. The show got 25% more viewers in the 18 to 49 age bracket than it did last season. It went from 14.9 million to 17.6 million viewers in a year. This wasn't simply another ending. That was when NCIS became the most popular scripted program in the US and stayed that way. Abby's signature drink, Calf Po, was one of the strangest but most successful marketing triumphs. It started out as an idea for a design. At first, it was meant to be pills with caffeine in them. But the producers didn't want Abby to take pills on TV, so they changed it to a bright red energy drink. That red cup became famous. 7-Eleven liked the idea and conducted an offer that increased energy drink sales by 14% across the country. They also designed Calf Po cups with seasonal themes. Most admirers didn't know that Pauley Perrette never drank it. Cranberry juice filled her cups. Perrette never requested for a body double. She had terrible claustrophobia, even in settings that made her physically uncomfortable. But still shot inside enclosed morgue setups on their own. In one episode, Bête Noire, she had to face those concerns in a big hostage situation. She didn't move. She continued on going. The show dubbed it necrophobia, even though the set made her feel like she couldn't breathe. But for her, it wasn't about the corpses. It was about the barriers coming down. But she still acted like herself. For 15 years, she never let fear get in the way of her work. Perrette also made a webcomic on the side while she was on NCIS. She wrote a series called Lab Babble, which was all about Abby's exploits at the lab, under the name P. No one recognized it was her at first. The comic contained Abby's jokes, her science, and even Bert the Hippo. Fans finally figured it out. But the comic wasn't the most surprising part. That was where the money went. Every penny made from ads went to animal shelters all throughout the country. She did a kind thing for someone else without being asked. Perrette won a title from Guinness World Records in 2011 that no one other had ever won. They named her the best actress in a crime drama on TV. This wasn't just based on ratings. It came from something called the Q score, which told how much people loved her as a person. Not only the character, but also her. She beat out actresses from series like Law & Order and CSI. NCIS was getting more than 18 million viewers per episode at the time. It wasn't simply the goth style or the science talk that made her stand out. It was how she got others to care. Everything changed on the NCIS set in October 2016. Mark Harmon brought his rescue pit bull, Dave, just like he had for years without any problems. But that day, everything went very wrong. The dog bit a crew member so hard that they had to get 15 stitches. The onslaught was bad enough to stop manufacturing for 2 hours. It wasn't just a short fear. The injury hurt both physically and emotionally. Later, Harmon's lawyer said that he had told him about the risks of bringing the dog back. Dave came back nonetheless. There was a sense of anxiety in what had once been a safe, controlled set. That event didn't just go away. It set off a chain reaction that would destroy the show's base. Pauley Perrette told CBS right after the dog attack that Dave should never be allowed near the production again. She was scared. But she was really angry when the network let the dog come back. She inserted a strict condition to her season 15 contract in response. After that, she would never be in the same scene with Harmon again. It was a mystery for fans. They never appeared together on screen. Filming had to be planned around them, though. Different crews filmed her scenes on different days. The expenditures of making the show increased higher, and it was harder to handle the whole thing. In her last episode, which 15 million people saw, they didn't even live in the same building. Editors had to carefully put the episode together to make it look like there was a relationship when there wasn't one. Pauley then made everything public in June 2019. She put out a tweet at 6 a.m. that sent shockwaves across the internet. She said she was scared of Harmon and had nightmares about him coming after her. She was certain that she would never go back to NCIS. Her statements didn't originate from a private source or an interview with the press. They were straightforward, honest, and real. The internet went crazy. Fans sought to figure out what she was saying, and entertainment sites went down. The picture of Harmon as a peaceful father on TV was suddenly thrown off. He didn't say anything. For a lot of people, that stillness made her comments even more powerful. Before, it wasn't known that Pauley had already made 3 distinct safety concerns to HR. These weren't just rumors about fights or talks about pay. CBS later said that she had brought up her concerns more than a year before she quit the show. She tweeted in 2018 that she had been attacked physically many times. Her posts implied that she was being forced to keep quiet and blamed a powerful machine for disseminating false information about her leaving. She said she didn't feel secure coming to work and needed therapy following that. She tried to go through the right channels by filing 3 different reports. It also shows that CBS had many opportunity to do more, but they didn't. Pauley had to get away from work, not merely leave it behind. When news broke that she had hired a private investigator, things got really bad. She wasn't just letting off steam. She was getting evidence. The investigator wrote down safety infractions on the NCIS set, and Pauley used that proof to get CBS to settle the case privately. Several sources say that CBS paid her between $5 million and $9 million. It wasn't because of a terrible screenplay or a wage cut. It was about being safe and responsible. The deal included a tight non-disclosure agreement that was supposed to keep everything secret. At the same time, CBS was already in trouble for previous bad behavior. They had just given Eliza Dushku $9.5 million for harassment on another show. The money Pauley got shows that her case was serious enough that CBS's brand and Mark Harmon's career could have been hurt badly if the information got out. Pauley sought to make a comeback 2 years later with a new sitcom called Broke. It began well. More than 7 million people watched on April 6, 2020. But the success didn't last long. The ratings dropped soon. At the end of the 13-episode season, only 3.6 million viewers were still watching. The show received a 0.4 rating in the important age group of 18 to 49. That number is much lower than what networks require to keep a show on the air. Critics weren't nice either, saying that the show was uninteresting and didn't have a point. CBS wanted to bring her back to TV, but it didn't work out. Pauley's return failed because to low ratings and poor reaction, even though he was one of the biggest personalities on primetime TV. Pauley gave out one last note just 2 months after Broke was canceled. She tweeted, "I'm free in bright rainbow colors" on July 7, 2020. It wasn't just a good news update. It was her last day as an actress. She added that now she solely listens to God, animals, and plants. Her rescue dogs, she claimed, were her sole judges. It was evident that she didn't want to work in the sector again. She has been acting for more than 25 years and had been in more than 350 episodes of NCIS. But now she was done for good. There were no arrangements, no interviews, and no goodbye tour. Just one strong statement that shut the door altogether. What happened next shocked a lot of people. She was still getting job offers after she retired. She was asked to be a guest star on big shows like The Good Doctor and Law & Order, SVU. Most of the time, these kinds of roles pay between $100,000 and $300,000. They were easy wins for someone with her level of skill and fame. But she said no. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about having serenity. She used to support SVU and its causes, but she didn't want to go back to that society. She was serious when she turned down offers like this. She didn't want to be famous. She was looking out for her own health. Pauley Perrette woke up on September 7, 2021, and right away realized something was amiss. It was like the whole right side of her body was asleep. She attempted to ignore it, thinking she might have merely slept in a weird way, but the feeling didn't come back. It felt like someone else's finger was caressing her own cheek. Her skin didn't care that her laptop was laying on her legs. That's when she started to panic. She phoned her doctor, who ordered her to hurry. Within minutes, she was at an emergency hospital with medical experts who confirmed her worst dread. She was having a huge ischemic stroke at the age of 53. For 36 hours, she couldn't speak. She couldn't say anything. When she could finally talk again, her first words weren't very dramatic. They were light, maybe even a touch snarky. "Are you kidding me?" But the truth was that her doctor didn't think she would live past 5 p.m. that day. The stroke had been that serious. It took a long time to get better, and it was tiring. She had to go to speech and motor skills therapy for months. But she lived through it, even if she was hurt. It wasn't just the doctors who helped her live. Rosie was the one. Rosie was not a family member or a nurse. She was Perrette's dog that saved her. Rosie wouldn't stop pawing at her as the stroke happened, waking her up barely in time. That little thing meant the difference between life and death. Every second counts when someone has a stroke, and Rosie bought her those seconds. Perrette had always loved saving animals. She adopted a lot of pets throughout the years and often talked about how much they meant to her. But this was not the same. The puppy she had rescued ended up saving her life. That event helped her see that their relationship was more than just friends. It was for survival. From then on, her love for rescuing animals only got stronger, based on gratitude in something like divine. After the stroke, that feeling of spirituality grew stronger. Perrette started looking for calm and peaceful regions, far away from Hollywood. She began going to a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur twice a year. She learned how to calm down, breathe, and listen there. The monks didn't want to change her. Instead, they showed her how to sit quietly and pray in a way that felt real to her. She made up a little prayer that she says every day. "Thanks for everything, and I'm sorry for everything." She says that in those quiet times, she gets guidance that is obvious but not loud or spectacular. Words like trust or not now come in like whispers. This wasn't the faith she had grown up with. At the time, she didn't even know how to pray. But now, talking to God feels like talking to a friend. These retreats helped her deal with more than just the stroke. They helped her deal with years of trauma, such being abused in the past and being attacked in 2015, which left her shaken and scared. Perrette kept finding ways to offer, even while she was in suffering herself. She was the executive producer of a documentary called Studio One Forever, which was very important to her. The movie looks into the past of Studio One, which was the first homosexual disco in the U.S. This was open in West Hollywood from 1974 to 1994. It wasn't only a club. It was a place where LGBTQ people could be free, happy, and with each other, especially during the scary early days of the AIDS crisis. Bruce Vilanch and Chita Rivera are two famous people who tell their story in the movie. But Perrette had a straightforward reason for doing it. She wanted others to hear their sounds. She wanted people to know that Studio One was more than just a place to dance. It was a safe place to be during a scary period. The project had its first showing at the 2023 Outfest LA Film Festival, where it became a celebration of history, strength, and community. But a lot of her most important work never got a lot of attention. In 2015, she silently helped a girl called Christina Flores who had cancer. Christina loved NCIS and wanted to meet Abby Ciuto. That wish came true because to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. They met, hung around, and even got matching temporary tattoos. Christina died weeks later. At the time, no one knew that Pauley had paid for Christina's family's travel and funeral costs. It wasn't for the sake of publicity. It was personal. Christina's aunt tweeted about it, and that's the only reason it got out. Perrette never said anything. She didn't have to. She had already done what was important, acknowledged a little girl whose fortitude moved her. Hollywood kept calling, but Pauley stuck to her principles. Playboy magazine offered her $750,000 to appear for them in 2007. She said no. They came back in 2013 with about $1 million. Again, she said no. There were more than 19 million people watching NCIS every week at that time. It was one of the most popular shows on TV. Playboy thought she would say yes, but she didn't want to be part of something that made women into things. She realized that young followers were watching, and she wanted to say something else. She told TV Guide in 2014 that the offers didn't interest her. Not at all. She thought there was another way to display strength, and she stuck to that notion even when it cost her. But the biggest shock may have come in 2023, when Pauley's will was made public during a probate filing in Los Angeles. Her estate was worth more than $22 million in total. There wasn't a single $1 left for relatives or friends. Instead, every penny was going to no-kill animal shelters and the Innocence Project. Her lawyer confirmed it and said she wanted to prevent any fuss over her inheritance. She had already spent years helping these causes. She saved 12 dogs in just 1 year. She carefully split her bequest, giving 60% to shelters and 40% to support people who were unfairly condemned. She even asked for one last thing. They would split her ashes. Half would be spread out near a dog park. The other half would go to the rescue center where she got her first puppy.